In the warm waters of the Caribbean, a dangerous game of cat and mouse is unfolding. The United States has deployed its most powerful warship, the USS Gerald R. Ford, along with 15,000 personnel, multiple destroyers, an attack submarine, and F-35 fighter jets to Puerto Rico in what represents the largest U.S. military presence in the region since the invasion of Panama in 1989. In response, Venezuela orders a massive mobilization of its forces, and at the tip of this spear are two fighter jets that shouldn't be flying together: Russian Sukhoi Su-30s and American F-16s. How did this unlikely pairing become the centerpiece of Venezuela's air defense? And why, after decades of service, do they suddenly pose a serious threat? This isn't just about military hardware. This is about survival, geopolitics, and a fleet of fighters that has beaten all odds to remain in the sky. Historical context: how Venezuela got these jets. To understand why Venezuela's fighter fleet matters, we need to go back to 1983, when Venezuela became the first nation in Latin America to acquire the F-16 Fighting Falcon. Under the Peace Delta program, Venezuela received 24 F-16s. These were state-of-the-art fighters that gave Venezuela the most capable air force in the region. But the political landscape shifted dramatically with the election of Hugo Chavez in 1999. As relations with Washington soured, the United States cut off spare parts and maintenance support for Venezuela's F-16 fleet. Faced with a grounded F-16 fleet, Chavez turned to Moscow. In 2006, Venezuela signed a deal for 24 Sukhoi Su-30 Mk2 jets, twin-engine heavy fighters that could outperform anything else in Latin America. This created one of the world's most unusual Air Force inventories. Aging American F-16s flying alongside powerful Russian Sukhois. On paper, it gave Venezuela a formidable high-low mix of fighters. But maintaining both would prove to be Venezuela's greatest challenge. Technical analysis: the jets themselves. Let's break down what Venezuela is working with. The Su-30 Mk2 is the heavyweight champion of this story. This twin-seat, twin-engine fighter has exceptional range, over 3,000 kilometers without refueling. It can carry advanced weapons, including the KH-31 anti-ship missile, which poses a legitimate threat to naval vessels, as well as KH-59M air-to-surface missiles and R-77 air-to-air missiles. Then there's the F-16, the survivor. Despite the U.S. embargo, Venezuela has kept a handful of these jets airworthy. But of the original 24, only a few remain operational today. Now, let's put these two fighters head-to-head in a direct comparison. First, origin and politics. The Su-30 represents Venezuela's modern alliance with Russia, while the F-16 represents their former partnership with the United States. Operational status. Here we see a dramatic difference. Venezuela maintains approximately 21 of its 24 original Su-30 Mk2s, but only a handful of its original 24 F-16s remain airworthy. Weapons capability. This is where the Su-30 truly shines. It carries advanced Russian weapons, including the Kh-31 anti-ship missile that can threaten naval vessels. The F-16s, by comparison, are limited mostly to older air-to-air missiles and unguided bombs. Range and performance. The Su-30's massive 3,000-plus kilometer range dwarfs the F-16's approximately 2,000 kilometers, giving Venezuela much greater reach across the Caribbean. Finally, maintenance and support. The Su-30s benefit from continued Russian support, though with some part shortages. The F-16s, however, survive on black market parts and cannibalization of other aircraft. What makes this combination particularly interesting is how the jets complement each other. The Su-30s provide long-range strike capability, while the F-16s offer quicker reaction and potentially lower radar visibility. Maintenance and readiness challenges. But having advanced fighters is one thing, keeping them flying is another. Venezuela's Air Force faces three critical challenges: spare parts, training, and economic collapse. Venezuela has suffered more than a decade of economic crisis, with one of the world's highest inflation rates. About 7.9 million Venezuelans, many of military service age, have fled the country. Maintenance has suffered dramatically. The NGO Control Ciudadano has noted problems of system obsolescence and of maintenance and lack of spare parts, leading to several Su-30 crashes. Keeping the F-16s flying has required extraordinary measures, including cannibalizing some aircraft to keep others operational. Venezuela has achieved what is actually quite remarkable, given the circumstances. Keeping 40-year-old F-16s flying without manufacturer support is like keeping a vintage car running without ever being able to buy original parts. You have to improvise, find alternatives, and hope nothing major breaks. The real question isn't how many jets Venezuela has on paper, it's how many they can get in the air simultaneously when needed. Recent videos suggest they can muster several of each type for coordinated operations, but sustained combat operations would be challenging.
Strategic significance. Why they matter now. Which brings us back to today's standoff. Why do these aging jets suddenly matter so much? In a full-scale conventional war, experts agree Venezuela's Air Force couldn't withstand American air power for long. that's not the game here. These fighters serve multiple strategic purposes short of all-out war. First, deterrence. Even a handful of Su-30s armed with Kh-31 missiles forces American naval commanders to take Venezuelan capabilities seriously. Each Su-30 represents a potential threat to billion-dollar U.S. warships. Second, signaling. When Venezuela releases videos of F-16s and Su-30s flying together, they're sending a message to multiple audiences. To Washington, we can fight back. To their own people, we are strong. And to allies like Russia, we're worth supporting. The seriousness of the situation was underscored in November 2025 when the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration warned airlines of potential hazards when flying over Venezuela due to worsening security situation and heightened military activity. Third, asymmetric options. Venezuela's fighters could be used for targeted shows of force, harassment of U.S. aircraft, or even symbolic strikes. Most importantly, these jets buy Venezuela options. They complicate U.S. military planning and raise the potential cost of any intervention. The human element, pilots and ground crews. Behind these machines are the Venezuelan pilots and ground crews operating under extraordinary circumstances. Flying both Russian and American aircraft requires maintaining completely different training pipelines, technical manuals, and maintenance procedures. It's like running two separate air forces simultaneously. These personnel face unique challenges, scouring international markets for F-16 parts, adapting Russian weapons to changing threats, and training for potential combat against the world's most powerful air force, the same force that trained many of their predecessors. The future. So what comes next for Venezuela's unlikely fighter fleet? While the U.S. military buildup continues, American public opinion shows significant resistance to military action, with 70% of Americans opposing U.S. military action in Venezuela, according to a recent CBS News YouGov poll. The real significance of Venezuela's fighter fleet may be what it represents: a small nation's determination to maintain sovereignty against overwhelming odds. These jets probably wouldn't change the ultimate outcome of a full-scale conflict, but they might make Washington think twice before starting one. In the high-stakes game of Caribbean geopolitics, Venezuela's fighter jets are more than just military hardware. They're political symbols, deterrence, and a testament to human ingenuity in the face of immense challenges. The question isn't whether Venezuela's jets could win a war against the United States. They couldn't. The question is whether they can make intervention seem too costly to attempt. And for now, the answer appears to be maybe enough.